slow start features a did not qualify in race number 2.
We sure had an awful lot of stuff go wrong this year already.
This is Jimmy Brock, and he is hot. That makes his boss, Joe Amato, hot. A new national record at the Pomona opener and currently the points leader.
I guess this dog can hunt, huh?
Corey McLennan sizzles. He won in race number 2 in Phoenix.
You gotta be kidding. I don't believe it.
Kenny Bernstein 2 weeks ago in Houston, he didn't qualify. Hot not.
First time we haven't qualified for an NHRA Winston event in 10 years.
Dick LaHaye's the guy that throws coal on the Scott Coletta flame. He's the current national record holder at a 472.
He asked me what I wanted to run in Houston, what we thought it would take, and I said, well, between 72 and 74. He said, okay, that's what I thought, too. Hopefully we can keep it up.
And in his last year of driving, John Prudhomme could become the hottest of all after his win just 2 weeks ago.
Thanks again, man. This is a ball, I tell you. I may not quit, you know.
Today, Gainesville Raceway in Gainesville, Florida, plays host to the 4th stop on the 18-event, $19 million Winston Championship Tour. Welcome, everyone, to exclusive same-day coverage of the silver anniversary edition of the Mac Tools Gatornationals. 2 weeks ago in Houston, Texas, we saw the quickest elapsed time ever in drag racing, a brilliant 472, a new national record set by Scott Coletta. Everybody said, let's wait until we get to Gainesville and see what happens there. Well, what has happened? We have not thus far this weekend had those great times, and there is one big reason. It's hot. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClellan, and welcome to a sun-drenched Gainesville Raceway where literally tens of thousands of fans have been anticipating those big numbers, but they may have been a little disappointed because of the heat and the humidity. It has affected the racetrack. It's affected the car's ability to make horsepower, but one thing it has done, it's tended to level out the competition just a little bit. In Pro Stock, if you don't know it already, there is a war going on. Right now, let's switch to our Battlefront correspondent, Steve Evans.
Dave, it is war between the Oldsmobiles and the Dodges, and it could get nuclear before the season ends. More particularly, the Oldsmobiles of Warren Johnson and his son Kurt, and the Dodges of Darrell Alderman and Scott Jeffrey-On. Let's go back to our previous ESPN telecast from Houston, Texas. What a final in Pro Stock. The Thrilla in Manila, the fight at the lights. Neither the Dodge with Jeffrey-On or the Oldsmobile with Johnson would stage. They just sat there. The crowd roared built. They loved this drama. Finally, NHRA officials said enough is enough and backed them out of the beams. Starter Buster Couch chastising Warren Johnson. Other officials talking to the crew chiefs. Finally, they fire him up again, stage him again. Same deal. They just sit there. Jeffrey-On flipping the throttle occasionally, trying to spook Johnson. Finally, Warren moves in first. Jeffrey-On follows. Jeffrey-On gets the whole shot. That was the bottom line of this whole deal. But it wasn't enough to fend off Warren Johnson at the finish line. And speaking of the finish line, I have never seen Warren Johnson quite that high.
The kid's just a jerk out there trying to play his game. You better learn how to drive a race car before he starts playing games like that.
Well, it looked like both of you were playing the game. Anybody can stage at any time.
I don't have to stage last or first. I'll stage when I'm ready.
And in the 2 weeks since Houston, it's been a war of words in the motoring press. Let's see, Scott Jeffrey-On called Warren Johnson a wimp. Warren Johnson said he's smarter than the Dodge team. He knew there'd be a burn down in Houston. He went to the line with a cold motor, and that's why he won. Oh, he also said Jeffrey-On wasn't a bad guy till he got Hutchinized, talking about the crew chief on the Dodge, Dave Hutchins.
Well, really, I don't know what that means. I've been trying to figure that out. I don't know what Warren's trying to say by that.
I think he's trying to say that you ordered Jeffrey-On not to stage if the car ran out of gas.
Well, sounds good, but I don't really think I have that kind of control over Jeffrey-On.
So it's not like pasteurizing or homogenizing?
Not that I know of. I don't really know what it means.
And as expected in qualifying for the Gatornationals, it's the Dodges and Oldsmobiles at the top of the list. Now in funny car, Houston winner Al Hoffman is solidly qualified. He never seems to go for number one. But in the number one spot, much to the thrill of this capacity crowd, is Japanese national Kenji Okazaki. And of course, in funny car competition, you never count out Winston champion John Force. He's won the last two Gatornationals. But my pick to click is Mark Oswald, who won here 3 years ago and qualified with a solid 5:10 in the heat on Saturday. Dave?
Steve, what a show this huge crowd is seeing today. The 1994 NHRA Mac Tools Gatornationals is being brought to you by Midas. the Midas way, the way it should be. And by Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. Yesterday, this was Kenny Bernstein's crew chief, Dale Armstrong. In a moment, we'll find out why he was not a happy man. Top Fuel Eliminator, the story of Kenny Bernstein. Remember, it was 2 weeks ago at Houston, Texas, when Kenny failed to qualify for the first time in 11 years. Well, here at the silver anniversary running of the Mac Tools Gatornationals, Bernstein not only qualified, but has done well in eliminations. The big problem is, every run he makes down the quarter mile, he hurts the engine, forcing the Budweiser King crew into a lot of between rounds work. Right now, let's take a look at the Winston point standings in Top Fuel Eliminator coming in to Gainesville. The five-time Winston champ Joe Amato was on top, followed by Corey McLenathan, Scott Coletta, Shelly Anderson, and Rance McDaniel was only 452 points out of first place. Kenny Bernstein was not even in the top 10, and believe me, the point standings won't look anything like this when we're done today. Kenny waited until the last of 4 qualifying sessions to make this field. The worst that could have happened here, he would have been a DNQ for the second race in a row, but he made it. It was costly, a 489.
Obviously took a lot of fuel away to try to get it to run on 8, and as you say, it's a little crispy, but hey, we're just happy and thankful to get in this show the way it's been the past couple of 3 weeks.
Kenny Bernstein qualified number 9. That meant he raced number 8 qualifier Jimmy Nix in the first round, and Bernstein prevailed. His opponent in round number 2 was the winner of the race between the number 1 qualifier. That's Corey McLenathan. For the third time in 4 races this season, Corey Mack ended up on top at 4.80 seconds. His opponent, the number 16 qualifier in the Smokin' Joe's Racing team car from Candies and Hughes, Jim Head, who had a 497 to qualify 16th. But as so often happens, what's on paper means nothing when they come to the starting line. Head pulled off the upset, and Corey Mack reflected.
Been running so consistent all weekend. It's hard to take a first round loss, but just these things don't always do what you want them to, and that's just the game we play.
So Corey Mack, the number 1 qualifier, out in round number 2. That means no more points at the Gatornationals for Corey Mack. Jim Head moved to round number 2 for the first time this season. His opponent, Kenny Bernstein, and Head's time was no fluke in that first round victory over McLenathan. He ran 488. That gave him the lane choice over Bernstein, who had a 491 winning effort. There's the crew chief for Bernstein, Dale Armstrong, who for the past several weeks has been fighting this Budweiser King. It has been a difficult task indeed. We were on board in round number 2 as Bernstein outdistanced Jim Head and moved to the semifinals.
Kenny, you're getting there first, but making a lot of aluminum ashtrays out of pistons in the process.
We sure are, Steve. That's no fun, but winning is what counts. We'll just keep after the fuel system, Dale will, and try to get it to where it's rich enough to make it all the way. It went a little further, believe it or not, even though it looks pretty bad.
Certainly not dropping cylinders.
No, we're not doing that right now.
It's too lean to do that.
Bernstein's winning time of 493 at 291, a losing effort by Head at 503. So, what a surprise it was when Kenny Bernstein moved to the round of Final 4. Bernstein into the semifinals. After all the problems, he's still there. Meantime, Joe Amato, the leader in the Winston points chase, fell on hard times as well in round number 1. His opponent was Pat Austin out of Tacoma, Washington. Amato had qualified number 4 at a 482. Austin a full 1/10 of a second slower at a 492. As the two cars approached the starting line, everyone felt that Pat Austin was going to have to pull off a driving job, and he rose to the occasion. A giant advantage off the starting line and a big win.
Joe, a double dose of bad news. You lose on a hole shot and the Winston points lead along with it.
Well, Steve, what was the difference in the retees?
Just a couple of hundreds.
Yeah, but he has little tires, I have big tires, so really that's a pretty close lead. But we expected the car to run decent. He ran good, and that's the way racing goes. He'll be back.
I know that.
Our instant replay shows you what happened at the starting line. Austin had the advantage. Amato had the quicker time of 481 to Austin's winning 485. Moving back again into round number 1 competition, the number 5 qualifier, Scott Coletta, was up against number 12, Tommy Johnson Jr. The two young Lions battled it out, and it was Scott Coletta prevailing.